Hi, I'm Jeanne Schumacher, and today's special edition is on the coronavirus. I am founder of Simply Plant-Based, where I have a lot of programs to help you to change your health destiny, starting off with the Weight Loss Advantage, and coming soon is the Pregnancy Advantage with Dr. Deborah Shapiro. We are going to help you to get your body pregnant ready, or if you're having trouble, we're going to help you overcome that as well. So today I have Dr. David Dunaief. He's an internist specializing in lifestyle medicine. His focus is on reversal, prevention, and treatment of chronic disease through nutrition, fitness, and stress management. He's got a practice on Long Island and Brooklyn. So thank you, Doc, for joining me today on this very topical topic.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, what can you do to protect yourself from COVID-19, which is a specific strain of the coronavirus?
Thank you for this. I serve a population of patients who have chronic illnesses, and this question I've been answering a lot lately, as I'm sure you can imagine. Yeah. I'll share with you what I share with them. The most important two factors are containment and mitigation. These are the guiding principles to what's involved with the coronavirus or COVID-19.
So, okay, for those of us who don't know, what is containment and what is mitigation?
So that's a great question. So containment is about reducing the transmission of COVID-19 so the curve of prevalence flattens. In other words, instead of using those fancy words, the number of new cases diminishes so the goal becomes 0 new cases, and eventually the COVID-19 hopefully will diminish and go away. And mitigation is reducing those symptoms if you do get the coronavirus, so that you are asymptomatic or you have mild to moderate symptoms, not severe. Fortunately, 4 out of 5 or 80% of the population who does get the coronavirus has a mild to moderate form.
So, okay, how do you reduce the risk of getting the virus and reduce the symptoms if you do get it?
According to the CDC, washing your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds is a great way because it helps denature the envelope around the virus. So basically, it's helping to kill the virus. And we should be washing our hands for 20 seconds, even if there weren't a virus around. So this is a great message, a great public health message anyway. Don't touch your eyes, nose, and mouth. And social distancing, meaning keeping 6 feet away from other people and not congregating in large groups, because that's how it spreads rapidly. Also, get in the habit of cleaning and disinfecting surfaces you touch or other people touch. And for more information, you can go to cdc.gov.
Well, I'm just going to throw my 2 cents in because the EWG, environmentalworkinggroup.org, has a cosmetic database, and it also has a cleaning product database, because anything that you put on your skin, it goes into your bloodstream in 26 seconds. So make sure what you're choosing to use with hand soap, sanitation, surface cleaners, making sure that you're not breathing in a lot of toxins as well, because we don't want to stress out the system that way. And if you're looking for products that are not toxic, you can message me, because I found a company called Pure Haven that's amazing. So I won't spend time talking about it, but if you're interested in learning about toxic-free products, go to the EWG. If you don't want to spend the time looking it up, message me and I can help you. All right, CDC, got it. Okay, is there anything we can do beyond like what you mentioned? What can we do?
That's a great question. This is what I call the 4 pillars of lifestyle modification, which include diet, exercise, stress management, and sleep. Ultimately, the goal is to have a healthy, appropriate immune response. If the immune response is under-responding, the virus symptoms can grow and become more severe, or if you're immunosuppressed. If the immune system is overstimulated, the overreaction of white blood cells are more likely to attack healthy tissue and cause further damage, exacerbating the situation. In other words, your immune system can play a role in helping you, but it also can play a role in hurting you. This sometimes happens after a heart attack when it's overstimulated, where immune response is overzealous targets the healthy tissue, causes dysfunction in the heart, and this process is called remodeling. And remodeling can be more damaging than the heart attack itself. What we want is to prepare our system for the Goldilocks of immune response.
What?
Goldilocks, not too little, not too much, but just right.
Okay.
Goal is to create a healthy, strengthened immune system, not to boost, not to suppress the immune system to help fight off the coronavirus.
Okay. So who's going to be susceptible to this?
That is a wonderful question. Those who are most susceptible to the coronavirus and most likely to have severe cases, according to a study published in The Lancet that was focused on the results from Wuhan, include those who are over the age of 60 and over, which is not really that old, those who have uncontrolled chronic diseases such as high blood pressure, diabetes, and heart disease, and those with weakened immune systems and increased inflammation. By implementing a whole food, plant-based diet, you can rapidly improve or even reverse those chronic diseases, decrease inflammation, and strengthen the immune system, which will decrease your chances of dying from the virus. And I think that's a very good thing, because dying is a side effect that you don't come back from.
No, we want to kind of avoid that one. That's
right.
So let's dive deep into these pillars, because these are huge lifestyle modifications that we need to make. So let's start with diet or food.
Okay, so the diet, the goal is to have an anti-inflammatory diet that will strengthen your immune system. A whole food, plant-based diet that's nutrient dense, or what I call the LIFE diet. The LIFE diet stands for low inflammatory food, everyday diet. The Lancet study from Wuhan,
That's appropriate, by the way. I just wanted to give you kudos for that.
Well, thank you. The Lancet study from Wuhan, China, found that inflammation and weakened immune system were central to determining how people will do on entering the hospital. So whether they'll die or they won't depends on how their immune system is doing and how the inflammation is doing. And that's on entering the hospital. What is found with the LIFE diet in my practice experience is that people have white blood cells that are on the low end of the scale, between 2.5 to 4.5, rather than in the middle or on the upper range between 6 to 10.5. So this is counterintuitive. You would think that you'd want your immune system to have higher white blood cells, but if you had higher white blood cells, then the white blood cells, they go from, say, 6 or 8 to 20,000 or 24,000. And that's when the white blood cells start attacking your healthy tissue, when they're overzealous. However, people who have white blood cells that are in the lower range and in a healthy lower range, around 3.5, when they get sick, my patients have white blood cells that stay within the range. They go up to about 8 to 9. So they never even break the normal range. So you don't want too many white blood cells all at once. This means that if they do get the coronavirus, then the response will be more likely targeted instead of disproportionate large response that starts killing the virus, but also the healthy tissues in the lungs, which causes inflammation and fluid buildup in the lungs. And
I mean, is that a problem? They're, killing our own healthy tissue?
Yeah, I would think so. And the fluid buildup is horrible, because even if you're on a ventilator, if you have fluid, you can't get air in the lungs.
Yeah.
So you want to focus in on things like fruits, vegetables, and legumes. They're very important. With vegetables, the focus should be on dark green leafy vegetables, such as spinach, bok choy, kale, broccoli, and cauliflower, as well as mushrooms. For fruits, apples have shown to play an important role in lung health. All types
apple a day, right?
Yeah, apple a day. I say an apple a day keeps me okay, because if I said that it keeps the doctor away, I wouldn't be able to be next to myself. Oh, that would be social distancing, and that's what we want. So I have to social distance from myself, so I'll stand 6 feet from the mirror.
Let's just go back to the apple, okay?
Okay, apple a day. Anyway, all types of berries have high anti-inflammatory effects.
That's my crack, berries.
Yes. And then a whole food, plant-based diet ultimately helps you with inflammation and immune strengthening, as well as supports reduced stress and better sleep. The reason for these effects may have to do with the microbiome, which are microbes living in your gut, and they play an important role determining how your immune system functions. 70% of your immune cells are in the walls of your gut.
Oh, wow, 70%?
70%. So what you eat affects the immune system. You can test for inflammation by looking at high-sensitivity C-reactive protein. So looking at high sensitivity C-reactive protein and looking at white blood cells, as well as by looking at beta carotene levels in the blood, which beta carotene levels are related to the dark green leafy vegetables, how much you're eating. The reason is that the more dark leafy greens you eat, the higher the beta carotene goes. So I recently published a study in the American Journal of Lifestyle Medicine that showed there's an inverse relationship between nutrient level beta carotene in the blood and inflammation measured through C-reactive protein. This showed a 75% reduction in inflammation with higher beta carotene levels achieved through a plant-rich diet focusing on dark green leafy vegetables. You don't seem to achieve the same reduction in inflammation from vitamins or plant-based powders as you do by eating actual fruits and vegetables and legumes. So you can't get away with it by just taking supplements. You actually need to change your diet. So don't rush out and take all the supplements off the shelf, please. So that gets to the idea of don't stress out.
Well, before we go back, I just want to say we did a video on that article, and we really dove deep into the details of why and how you can reduce that inflammation. So I do suggest that that's on my YouTube channel. It was a great interview. So yeah, stress. Honestly, we're stressing out. And I know, like the other night, one of the things I could do is I can control my food. So I was just stressing out. So I made a little bit of mac and not cheese. And I just said, I'm going to have a little bit higher caloric density tonight. But you know what? It helped me to deal with my stress, my comfort food, something calming, like that. So stress is another factor. What effect exactly does stress have on us?
Well, the first thing we should do to avoid stress is not to panic. People always go into panic mode, and it's very hard because we're trying to help with information, but if we give too much information, it sounds scary. But if we don't give enough information, people don't take it seriously. So we want to be vigilant. We don't want to panic. We want to do things.
Right.
When you stress, your body releases cortisone or internal steroids that actually weaken the immune system. Mm-hmm. So that increases your risk for COVID-19 and the severity of the disease. So if you reduce the stress with a whole food plant-based diet, exercise, yoga, meditation, all of these things help. Even adaptogens, which are supplements, but adaptogens are herbs that can help you reduce stress as well.
Well, and you mentioned it, you said the magic words, exercise. I mean, you can't forget to move your body. I mean, you just got to do it. I mean, what impact does exercise have, as this one of the pillars?
Well, exercise, mild to moderate, can reduce the stress levels and ultimately strengthen the immune system. And exercise will help with sleep. And that doesn't mean you have to go to the gym. Don't feel like we're sending you to the gym saying you have to lift weights. And I pick weights up and I put them down. You don't have to be lifting these 100-pound weights and doing it over and over again. What we're saying is if you don't want to go to the gym or you don't like that, you can go up and down your steps. You can walk around your house. You can walk around your neighborhood, but keep moving. And if you feel uncomfortable going outside, just go up and down the steps. But if you keep moving and you do some movements, it helps you with your immune system.
Well, not just that, but I feel like, everything else is beyond my control right now. I can't control this virus. I can't control the spread of it. But what I can do in my home is clean it out. So like pretty much a lot today has been spent on, I went through and cleaned the bathroom out. I mean, from top to bottom, everything, and just sanitized everything with a surface cleaner through Pure Haven. I just love this. And I just know I'm not breathing in toxic stuff. But I felt that this was something that I could do and I could control. That, and I can control the food and what's going into me. I can control those things. So, another thing that we, you tipped on this about what exercise helps is, it helps to tire you out through the day so that you can get some sleep, better quality of sleep at night. Sleep is so essential. And I did a video with Dr. Neil Barnard. He came out with his new book called Your Body in Balance. And he talked about sleep. And he said one of the things he says that he sees a lot of like kids and animals do just naturally is before, like a half an hour before you're ready to go to bed, because, he talks about like as adults, we just kind of like, we're reading a book and then you go click, the light goes off and you put your head down and you expect to fall asleep. he says, but if you can, like a half an hour as you're reading your books, or at first it's fake, but then you start yawning again. And he's like, if you can do that 4 times, like about a half an hour before you go to bed, it starts to change your brain chemistry to start powering down. So, anyway, but talk to me about sleep. How is this affecting us if we don't get enough, or, getting the quality that we need?
Well, getting enough sleep is important for everything. Getting quality sleep is important all the time. And it's not about how many hours, it's about the quality of the sleep. So if you're in bed for 9 hours, but you're not really sleeping, that's not quality sleep. But if you're in bed for 7 hours and you're sleeping really well, then that's quality sleep. And you want that for memory. You want that for functioning. You want that for the frontal cortex so that you can have recall. And you want it for the immune system so that we work on avoiding the COVID-19, or at least making the symptoms asymptomatic or mild.
Right.
And in Wuhan, China, a 29-year-old doctor who was working long hours died of COVID-19. And that really scared the Chinese, because it said, okay, it can affect a healthy person. But we know she was young. We don't know if she were healthy or not. However, she was not following the 4 pillars. She was probably very stressed out, because remember, we know that she was working long hours. And this is sort of, I know this from residency. The long hours that I was working caused a lot of stress, and I didn't eat well, and sleeping was such a small priority, and I didn't exercise a lot of the time. So I was really stressed out. I wasn't eating well. I mean, this is basically the 4 pillars not being observed, not being followed, and then ultimately having the problem, which is the worst possible scenario, where the woman's heart stopped while she was on a ventilator. Yeah, it's so terrible. Absolutely. That's why we should follow those 4 pillars and make sure we get enough sleep, and we follow through with the exercise and the diet and the stress management. So
Doc, I'm in agreement. That sounds like a plan. I mean, to work on these 4 pillars, because wow, your health, it's so worth working for.
Right.
And really putting these 4 pillars into place. But okay, what if I get a moderate or bad case of the virus?
Well, if you get a moderate or bad case of the virus, just know that right now there are no medications that are approved to treat the virus. So it's not that you're looking for medications. What you're looking for is supportive care. And supportive care means things like hydration, eating when you're hungry, focusing on foods with fluids in them, such as fruits and vegetables, a restorative soup with dark leafy greens as the centerpiece. But in the soup, you don't want high salt, because that causes dehydration. So again, it goes back to the hydration factor. And you want to be able to sleep, but you don't want to force yourself to eat if you're not hungry, because your body repairs even if you're not eating. And in fact, it might repair quicker if you're not eating, but we're still talking about hydration. So don't not drink. Go ahead.
Right. Well,
water.
Water, of course.
Yeah.
But think about this in terms of energy. You only have a certain amount of energy to deal with your body. Okay.
Right.
You can either choose to put that energy into digestion, which requires a huge amount of energy to process, or you can put that energy towards fighting, the defense, building your defense, not building it up, but fighting the defense, fighting what's coming in and invading in your body. You can either choose to put all your energy to that, or you can put some of your energy to that and some of it to digestion.
I always say that you have a bank account, and it's the blood vessel. It's the blood. It's the blood cells. You only have a certain amount of blood cells. And so you only have a limited bank account. And we all know, except for certain people who have higher bank accounts, most of us have very limited bank accounts. And we can put our resources to one thing or another, but we can't do all of it at once necessarily and do a great job. So if you don't eat, but you take in liquids, fluids that help hydrate really well, and that could be a smoothie, which a vegetable or fruit smoothie, that could be vegetables, could be fruits, could be water, could be a combination of them. But if you take in some fluids that help hydrate you, this is going to make a tremendous difference. And if you're not eating much food, then that blood supply can help go other areas besides digestion. And that makes a big difference. And
Right.
that is a very good point you brought up, and I appreciate that. And so to also point out that there are some instances you might have to go to the hospital where if you have difficulty breathing, persistent pain or pressure in your chest, new confusion or inability to get up, bluish lips or face, you might want to call 911, or you might just want to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
I would go to the hospital if you can do it, but if you go to the hospital, you should be in bad shape, because you don't want to go to the hospital if you're not, because you don't want to pick up any viruses, and you don't want to spread the virus to anybody else.
Right.
So to sum up, chronic diseases and not managing those 4 pillars are risk factors for dying from COVID-19. And you can improve or reverse the chronic diseases, as well as strengthen your immune system and reduce the inflammation through a plant-rich, dark leafy green vegetable diet like the Life Diet.
Right.
And this is what I can emphasize. And I can also emphasize that we have control. And this is wonderful. Even though there are no medications, we have control to make a big difference, to make sure that we get the asymptomatic or the mild, not the severe. And that we may have a mild temperature, but that's not a big deal. So that's what we want to strive for. Or we want to strive for not having it at all. But if we're going to get it, we want the mild form.
Well, I agree. I mean, and if I do, like, I loved Dr. Greg Fitzgerald. He brought this out. He wrote a great article. He's like, if I get the corona, leave me alone. And it was a fabulous, kind of like what we were talking about today, that we really have to be dealing with these 4 pillars. And if you do get sick, that you're going to have a good immune system so that it's not going to be overly bad, so that you can't just go to bed, pull the covers over your head, have some fluids when you stick your head up, and get, just water. And if you're running a fever, just let the fever run. Obviously, if it's like 104, I mean, that is Fahrenheit I'm talking, if it's like 104, okay, fine. But if you're just having like 102, let it run. Let the fever run, So I just like that idea, obviously.
Well, that's, I like the idea of letting the fever run a little bit too, but it's really a personal decision. And for me, I feel like if patients' fever is above about 100.4, then they can take it, because it makes you really feel lousy. But it really depends on your personal decision.
Yeah, but it's one of your defense systems to bring your body up to temperature.
Right.
Inhospitable for the virus. Hello.
Correct. As long as you don't have muscle pain or aches and it makes you feel miserable, yes. And I would try to avoid
it does make you feel miserable.
Right.
It does make you feel miserable. That's the whole point. So that you go to bed and you stay in bed. Because I know, like, when I was a kid, as soon as my mother gave me like some ibuprofen or Motrin or aspirin or whatever and reduced my fever, I'm like, let's go play.
Right.
My fever came down. In reality, my body was still fighting.
Right. That's a very, very good point, that we shouldn't be doing much and we should be trying to sleep.
Exactly.
That is a very good point. We should not be stressing our body, and our body is telling us to stay still.
So, Doc, if you're going to use a fever reducing medication, which we don't recommend unless it's really high fever, are there ones to avoid, or are there ones that are a better choice?
Well, that's a really great question. Actually, there are. You want to try to avoid NSAIDs, which are non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. And these are over-the-counter drugs such as ibuprofen, better known as Advil, naproxen, and even aspirin. But there can be prescription drugs such as diclofenac, because they suppress the immune system, thus making it more difficult for the immune system to fight the coronavirus or COVID-19. This suppression of the immune system occurs by an anti-inflammatory effect that has a mechanism of action that's different and detrimental compared to the favorable effects of a whole food plant-based diet, such as the Life Diet, with its anti-inflammatory effects. This is very important to recognize, that it's not the same effect as a dietary approach. The medication to use if you want to reduce fever is acetaminophen, better known as Tylenol. Yes, it doesn't always work for some people. For some people, NSAIDs work better. For some people, Tylenol works better. But unfortunately, Tylenol is what you need to use. You have one choice here. And that's because Tylenol doesn't have anti-inflammatory effects. Thus, it's not interfering with the immune system. So it's not going to suppress the immune system, so we can't fight off COVID-19. And this is supported by the health minister of France, which just mentioned that this came out, that Tylenol should be used, and the end says nonsteroidals should not be used.
But doc, Tylenol, for me, I don't know about everybody else, but Tylenol for me just doesn't cut it. I mean, honestly, for pain or fever management, is there anything else?
Well, some people it doesn't work with, and I understand that. And you're a freak, so that's why it doesn't work.
Oh, thanks!
However, for those people who it doesn't work or need something else or want something else, there are some supplements that may have some benefit, but they may have some benefit. You can try them, and they're not going to be harmful. And there are elderflowers, catnip, which is a gentle choice for children, yarrow, white willow bark, echinacea, and lemon balm, and that'll help assist with the fever, but you're probably still going to have to take the Tylenol, as well as you can try lemon juice and raw honey can be added to the tea for an extra boost of vitamin C. But again, you don't know that that's going to really play a role in helping with the fever. That may or may not, but it's not going to hurt you to try those if you want. But you're probably going to end up having to take the Tylenol Plus. But if this Tylenol Plus may help, that may be great. So I don't think there's any downside to doing that.
I have one big question I need to ask, because you talked about containment. How long is this going to take, Doc? What do you think?
That's a great question. I don't know that anybody can answer that question. It depends. We're hoping that warm weather will make a big difference. But if it goes anywhere like it happened in China, it could go on for several months. The outside could be as much as September, but we don't know. But the better you do with the 4 pillars and the better you do with containment of staying away from each other, the faster this is going to change and the faster the curve is going to flatten. So if we follow through with not going out right now, not going to bars, not going to restaurants as much.
Right.
You can always order in from a restaurant, but not going out to restaurants very much, staying away from people about 6 feet away, avoiding people who are coughing or sneezing. I mean, this is all very important. Not going to sporting events. Of course, they've canceled a lot of sporting events, but this is not an excuse to go meet somebody in their house or something like that. You really want to stay apart most of the time. And that doesn't mean you have to have social isolation. You can do it through the computer. You can do it through prompters. You can look and talk to people on the computer, on the phone, whatever it is, FaceTime. You don't have to be alone. Don't isolate yourself where you feel like you're alone and you're depressed. Make sure you're in contact with people, but it doesn't mean you have to be face-to-face with them.
Well, one of the things, I had a class that I teach up at Plant City, and I teach cooking and I do lectures up there. And I love doing that, the hands-on and doing the cooking demo, but obviously that's not a good thing to do right now, especially since I live in Westchester and it's up in Providence and I don't want to be like Typhoid Mary and bring up, that to Providence. So what I did is I took the class and we did it online.
That's a great idea.
We did it through Zoom. And they still got everything. I did, I had cooking videos. It wasn't the live version, but then we talked about it. We talked about what I did in the cooking class. And, so it really turned out to be quite a nice event. So I think there's, potential for doing things like that, connecting through the computer. So you're still connecting with other people at events, but we're doing it in a way that is, we're keeping our distance because that's the whole point of it. So anyway, but the things that I did in my house today, like I could control my environment. I was cleaning my house from top to every surface. I was, cleaning every surface, soap, water. I was taking the time. That is something I can control. I made some great soup. I can control that. So these are things that we can do. I can exercise my body. I can control that. I can meditate. I can control that. All of these
Having control is great, and that's what these pillars are for. Having control and being able to make everything better under your control. And that's a wonderful thing. And with any virus, almost any virus, except for hepatitis C or HIV, most of the other viruses you let ride, and you can't do much besides supportive care. So this is not only a good message for COVID-19, this is a good message for any virus.
Right.
And this is a good message for chronic diseases as well, by controlling those chronic diseases and reversing those chronic diseases. This is a really good message overall. It doesn't just
Right.
apply to COVID-19.
Right. You are. Thank you, Dr. Dunaief, for taking the time to share your thoughts on how we can work on the 4 pillars of health, because good health, oh my God, it's so worth working for. And I also appreciate your sharing with us how we can help and support someone with a virus if they do get it. So thank you for taking the time to be with me today.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure, and I hope this is helpful.
Always. I learned so much from you.
Thank you.